My guest this week is Rachel Lichtman. Rachel is a visual artist, comedy writer, and conjurer of groovy worlds. Her latest endeavor is Program 4, a hypnotic interdimensional analog 60s and 70s broadcast based in the fictional town of Golden Sands. Her work has featured notable cameos by a variety of actors, comics, and musicians, such as Nick Offerman, the Sklar Brothers, Joel Murray, Frank Conniff, Ted Leo, Amy Mann, Michael Penn, John Langford, Eugene Merman, John Worcester, Tammy Faye Starlight, Mitch Easter, Jay Gonzalez, Robin Hitchcock, Pat Sonson, and Michael Jorgensen of Wilco, Joe Pernice, and many, many, many more. In addition to the variety sketch series, she's created 2 episodes of the scripted comedy audio series Easy AM 66, a satirical, beautiful music radio station. She's also produced, directed, and written documentaries, live stage shows, full-length music shows, and over 4 billion music videos. She's currently producing more Deep Shag Program 4 magic and figuring out how to pay for oversized, impractical set pieces. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome the Revolutions Per Movie, Rachel Lichtman. Hi, Rachel.
Hi. Nice to see you.
So good to see you. I see you're wearing some Peter Lawford supported neckwear there.
Yeah, I
we'll
went
be getting into.
full ascot. I decided not to do the sweater, but I have the ascot in
Yes.
Lawford. You know,
I have the sweater.
You've got the sweater. I've got the
Yes.
ascot. Between us, we have an outfit for Peter Lawford.
No, it's amazing. You picked The Hollywood Palace, which was a series that ran from like 64 till like the 70s, I believe.
1970.
There's so many episodes we could have chosen. There was, a lot of ones you brought to my attention were ones that were being hosted by Bing Crosby that had like Bobby Gentry and Tiny Tim on it. We had ones that was like Sam and Dave and Dusty Springfield.
Yeah.
We got ones that are like Charo, James Brown, and Nipsey Russell. And it's like, how do we pick? But I think we narrowed one down that will make every listener happy. But I want to keep that a surprise for a second because I want to talk to you about your body of work. There are so many people who love the 60s and 70s, and they love the fashion and the music and the culture and just the feel of it. But so few people can put it into visual and musical and comedic terms these days. Where did this come from? Like, do you remember like the first thing that just hit you and resonated with this culture?
It's so connected to childhood, really. And when I got more connected to the work I was doing, I really wanted to literally channel sort of the feeling more so. I mean, you can do all kinds of bells and whistles with design and animation, but I really wanted to focus on that feeling of like staying home sick from school.
Yes.
And watching a bunch of commercials go by for like truck driving schools and this type of stuff, UHF, that
Yep.
I watched in the Chicagoland area, primarily like WFLD in Chicago, Channel 32, before it became like a Fox affiliate. Had just all the local Chicago programming really was influenced me in doing something that felt like a surreal sort of interdimensional version of this kind of broadcasting, like as if aliens finally got the signal and this was their version of like what they spit back out. But but it's my happy place. It's where I like to be.
Yes.
And even just the choice that I made for this show, there's a combination of things, local celebrities, graphic design, and humor, really, to the types of commercials. And I mean, because this Program 4 is like an oops, all interstitials. There's never any payoff. We never get to the thing. Same with Easy, frankly. I mean, it's all commercials. Like, we'll be right back. We've got so much more on the way. Well, we don't.
Yeah, and they'll like introduce the artists. They'll be like, oh, that was the Available Strings with Up Your Windy Mountain and the Friendship Singers with Look Up From Your Troubles. You produce programming that I want to see. I want to see a fifth dimension, like cop kind of show, kind of a thriller thing. I want to see a Robert Reed kind of Johnny Staccato vibed thing. It's just these title sequences and the music and the feel of it. It does. You're right. It is that feeling of just being young and kind of trapped at home and knowing there's a whole adult world out there that you're
Yeah.
not privy to yet, like
Yes.
nightclubs and
Yep.
concerts and politicians and smoking.
Smoking is a big one. Yes.
Yes, and I think you do that remarkably well.
Thank you. No, you really just hit the nail on the head. It really is like a child's version of an adult world that doesn't care about them. The adult world that doesn't
Yes.
include children. You're not involved. Like the Ramones Venetian Room commercial, which is like one of my favorite things of all time because the Sklar brothers nail it. So it's
It is like one of the greatest pieces of art, comedy, whatever you want to call it, writing. And I will
thank you.
put a link to this in the show notes. I am obsessed with this spot. You can't just watch it once. There's so much to learn and live in it.
It's true, and it was super fun to write and design and do it. And of course, I write things specifically sometimes for the Sklar brothers, who I just love working with. But it was so based on these restaurants in the suburbs where we're kids and the adults are having dinner and we're just allowed to like run around and try to make fun out of like this massive place with these like unused rooms and cigarette machines, and we're pulling on the cigarette machine thing like this is fun, I guess. I
Right.
mean, this is
Right.
sort of a
It's
game.
going to pay off. It's going to
Yeah.
pay off.
Somebody got a matchbook from this once, like it's just you're so bored in these spaces. And it's funny, John Moe just tweeted the other day, who I love, John Moe, but he just said, I don't think people realize that the entire world smelled like cigarettes, and that is what is the implication. The carpeting smells like cigarettes, the rooms smell like them, the actors and personalities are all smokers. It's just
Right.
that feeling of being a kid and not being really included. The world was not designed for you. It's not padded in any way. Everything's sharp and dangerous.
Well, what about, these are real images of places that existed. Like it just does your head in to look at it. So when you found a picture of some of these places, did you write like, oh, this is the mirrored ashtray or the brown sirloin
Yeah.
to those images? Or did you have the script first and then tried to find images that fit?
It's a combination of both. I had a list of fake rooms, some of which have not been used, will be used elsewhere. But it was this long list of like, what are these fake rooms going to look like? And then when I started to sort of find some images that I wanted to create, like the interiors of Ramones, then I sort of tweaked it from there to reflect more of what was happening in the room. And some ideas just came out of looking at the picture. Yeah.
It's so intense. And then the food, pickled butter, tableside nog fountain, no open-toed shoes, and then of course the piano stylings of Steve Ross. And that's where it
The
starts getting
legend.
a little upsetting. The piece you're like, you know, but yeah, it's a total masterwork. It's just such
Thank
a
you.
great piece of art. I love it. And again, I could I want to go to these places. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just incredible.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I want to go to them too. And in fact, so much of this work was done during the pandemic where I had to sort of create a world that I would prefer to be in. And that was the impetus, really, to develop some of this material that I had been sitting on. Frankly, I had been doing a channel called Network 77, which was
Right.
a lot more like sort of retro futuristic. It kind of had the vibe of, early cable where it was like Spectrum or on TV, these like cable boxes that you could, um, and that kind of evolved into this over that period of time, really starting with easy, honestly. Um, and then I kind of I just wanted to do a different style, and that's and be in this world, and
Right.
still to this day. I mean, this is the world that I love to be in. It's my favorite place to go, really. It's a show business that you're sort of sitting there and accepting whatever it is being presented to you, and it's a cross section of interest. It's a cross section of genres. You know, the audience who comes to a variety special is like, we're here for whatever plate spinners or Steppenwolf you've got for us. We don't care what it is. We're excited. Okay. And so like every week, especially on this show that we're going to talk about, like every week is so different. And it's this cross section of different types of entertainment, you know, and before things got sort of really narrow casted, it was just such a great way for everybody to be on the same page about like, yes, we love trapeze artists and animal acts, you know, and Scott Walker also, and just whatever is coming, you know.
Yes.
It just was a level, and everyone could enjoy it, and you know, fun for the whole family.
Well, I mean, the Rolling Stones' first U.S. appearance was on this show with Dean Martin hosting
Yeah,
and
yeah,
kind of burning them, like making fun of them, you know,
yeah.
in between.
I know.
But it's amazing, you know, that some of the hosts were like Bing Crosby, Liberace, Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, Judy Garland, The Supremes, Ginger Rogers, The Temptations, Dusty Springfield. I mean, I want something like that in my house every week still.
Somebody needs to give me a lot of money because I've been trying to do this in some fashion forever. And it's you know, you try to do it, but you're fighting against this, like, you know, you're trying to do something long form that people really just want bits and pieces of on the internet, and they want it but they don't. They're not
Right.
really prepared for what it takes to sort of sit through it. They want to fast forward it. They want to split it up into, you know, I know this because I made an hour of television, and it's like pulling teeth to get people just to sit and watch the whole thing in a sitting, you know. So I
Yeah.
don't, I do, I want to do this still. This is my goal in life, is to, and I've had a million different ways that I've tried to present it and will continue to try to present it. I have
Yes.
a new show that is going to be on the next episode of Program 4 that is going to be just it's just going to be great. I'm really excited about it. I just shot the host segments in Chicago with
Mm-hmm.
Doc Julin, who I work with a lot on everything, who's a genius. And he's the voiceover in Program 4 for Browner Carpeting and
Oh, yeah. Wall to
this
wall.
dry foam competition. He does all the announcements of the, you know, the commercial products. So I will continue to try to push this and force it on people.
Well, you know,
But
you've got one subscriber going
oh,
here.
good.
Also, the people in the audience, you know, this episode was from November 1st, 1969,
Yeah.
and it's like the weird looping like audience track with the whistle in the background is going like, but it's cycling through. It's just a loop. Already creates this weird like unreality to it because it is shot in front of a live audience, but they're like pumping in additional effects. And it's really kind of amazing to look at the audience and see how some of them are checked out. Do
Yeah.
you know anything about like what the process of getting to see a show like this was, getting a ticket or anything?
I think that you actually just had to do, you know, just line up for tickets outside
Okay.
of I think the theater. I was reading about that, and I believe, and you know, there were a number of other shows that were shooting over this period of time. I know that the Lawrence Welk show also shot in this same theater. This theater has a pretty rich history. Um, it was called the El Capitan, and it was like a vaudeville and, you know,
Wow.
dramatic and comedy theater. And then it became the Hollywood Palace Theater. And actually, in 1965, it was the first theater set up to go to color when ABC went to color in
Okay.
1965. This show to me, though, it's very like black and white goes to color. You know, when it
Yes.
starts in 1964, it's in black and white, and you've got it pretty much right out the gate. Old show business meets new. You know, you've got your, you know, sort of Betty Grable's still showing up, you know, but then you kind of immediately have like Diane Carroll, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was already sort of a thing where they're going to like sort of multi-generational thing. But then when it goes to color and the 60s really kick in, it goes off the charts. And the combination of things, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The episode that we're going to discuss, to me, is one of the most perfect examples of how well this can work when you have the right combination of things. To answer your original question, I think that people just did the thing where they like lined up for tickets, and you just showed up and you were going to get in. And the theater was like a big theater with a huge parking lot, I believe, next door, where they would stage all the animal and trapeze acts. And they had a lot of a lot of animal acts. I was reading about hold on, I got to look at my note. Yeah, Tina the baby elephant was the most used animal act, and they used to blowtorch her hair off of her in
Oh
the
God.
I mean, apparently it's like shaving her, like it didn't touch her at all. But
Right.
that's what they would do, like next to the theater in the parking lot. So I'm sure that was fun for people in line. It smells like burnt elephant hair. Do you smell that? I don't know.
But you're right. Going from black and white to color, even the
Yeah.
introduction changes in terms of the energy. And in the
Yep.
first 22 seconds of the show, I'm going to run through what an opening credit sequence for the show was.
Yeah.
So you go to get a quick shot of some makeup on a table, then 8 really quick edits of a woman putting on lipstick and eyeliner. And there's a diamond fabric pattern passing by, and then another one going against it. Hands are pulling up a curtain pulley, flashing repeatedly with the diamond curtain going down. Clothes on a rack are moving across the screen, and then someone is zipping up a woman's dress. And then a psychedelic tie is being tightened. And then a giant shot of a giant diamond necklace being put around the neck of a woman. And then there's more makeup. And then someone's spinning around in a large green and red dress. And then footsteps of people coming down a staircase shot from below. And then someone plugging in a giant industrial plug. And then the lights come on from Hollywood. And a hand moves the fader up on the control board. And then more stage lights come on. The heart of the entertainment world. And then a single light goes on. The Hollywood Palace, with flashing bulbs descending from a stage that just say the Hollywood Palace. And then it gets to a very low-tech sign that says Sammy Davis Jr. And then the Dells, Cass Elliott, Rosey Greer, Lionel Hampton, Peter Lawford. And it's such a weird thing. You can tell they're like, all right, this is where we, the budget is not going into these weekly guests. When you look at this, can you tell, is this an expensive production when you look at all the set changes that happen, or does it seem kind of like it's falling apart and kind of chintzy?
I think it's both. First of all, just weird fact, what you described in the opening sequence is how I got ready for this podcast today. Literally.
Nice.
Same exact thing. I just did it in honor of the opening cut,
like zip me up.
Yep. I had an ascot assistant. It's expensive in the sense, first of all, the production design, and they won the Emmy for art direction in 1966, and you can see why. Let's just talk about it for a second. The production design is stunning. The lighting is stunning. So, and they had made plans to, I'm not even sure if they actually did this or not, but they were going to pull up the cement floor that in the pit that was there from when the Jerry Lewis show shot there. But they were going to put like a swimming pool floor in, like a swimming pool level with all this expensive stuff. They were going to knock through the back of the theater. They ended up having to modify those things. It was millions of dollars. I think it was like $400 million then. So it was this huge thing that they were going to do. They had to modify it. They couldn't get the lease for I can't remember what was behind them. It was like a hotel or something, but they couldn't get the space. So I think they modified the plans. You can see that there is money where there's money, and then there's no money when there's no money. And also, as you say, like they would do these things where they had like evergreen shots of a studio audience or whatever. So then the final production did have like sweetening, and they had post-production, etc. But then you go through, as you say, the opening title cards are kind of just like, let's throw them in. But then the set design is such a seamless, gorgeous, installation, curtains parting, and then a thing comes down, and then that thing, the lighting changes on it, and then we have this, shape, and and everything's just moving, and it's just beautiful, and the style of it looks fantastic, particularly for this episode. It's great production
Yes.
design.
Agreed.
Jim Tridipo, I wrote his name down, did the production design. Lighting design by Jack Denton. It's beautiful. So I don't know where the money went. I mean, it's like they spent so much money on one thing that they didn't have enough for the other stuff somehow.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
and I just even the rehearsal time and I can't even imagine. The
Yeah.
other thing that's really wild is like, the title sequence happens and then we're immediately going into commercials. And one of the things I love about, when I was acquiring older TV shows and things like that, the fade out between commercials was longer. Like there's some dead space that's kind of unnerving. It's like quiet and black for a while.
Yeah.
But then the commercial, it's not like slam, slam, slam. And I feel like that is something that I just remember so much about that's just gone in terms of there being an actual 2 seconds of silence between thoughts of these crazy commercials.
It's true. There's no space for dead space or a minute or, even just a station identification that's quiet,
Yeah.
where it's just, yeah, that's the whole style of the way that all that's presented is totally different. And frankly, I prefer it this way. I think that there's something more organic about it. It feels like, you're watching something that people and humans are involved in versus, this like slick kind of computer graphic presentation that is, like, well, now it's mostly ones and zeros. And, I would almost rather have like the weird dead space than the way that streaming works now with the counterintuitive commercials that don't make any sense with what you're watching or pop right into the middle of dialogue and this type of thing.
Yes. Oh, the commercials that are chosen for this show
Yeah.
are audience specific.
Oh yeah.
Like it is
Yeah.
culture specific.
Yep.
And we have to talk about the commercials. They're such a big
Oh
part
yeah.
of this program. The first commercial that comes on, I know, is dear to your heart because you've done your own version of this commercial for program 4.
Yes. When I first of all, let's just say for the people listening, some genius child of God uploaded these episodes with the original commercials in them. There's this whole playlist of Hollywood Palace on YouTube that you can go through, and it's a really great cross section of episodes, like the ones I sent you. It's so many different types of things. But the commercials are included. So when I first saw some of these, this episode was one of the first episodes that I saw. And the first commercial is for Kool cigarettes, and it takes place in a recording studio where the guys are like, hey, I can't get this sound right, and I just had the idea to do a commercial for a cigarette that was specific to session guys. So I did Take 100s, and I swear to God, it's
It's
exactly like the
so
Kool commercial.
weird. They're both so weird because the original one, you're like, you don't know for maybe 15 seconds what they're selling, right?
No.
It's just them hanging
Is
out
it
in the studio
Ampex
being like,
tape? Like, what is it?
yeah, and
Yeah.
they're like, it's not sounding right. We need to move the mic for the trumpet. Then he's like, we need to smooth it out. And then they're like, this will help. And oh my God, it's so weird. And then they're just so thankful that it's like the cigarette led the charge.
The
It
cigarette fixed
healed,
it. Yeah.
it fixed it all. But my favorite thing in your commercial was when the bass player is playing.
Oh, Juliana Hatfield.
Yeah, she's playing. And all of a sudden she stops. She goes, for the 17th time, there's no bass in my headphones. Get your head out of your ass.
Yeah.
Because it's like she's playing, she's rocking, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, she's part of the whole Kool movement, and she's smoking a Take 200, which is the longest cigarette ever made. And oh my God. And then at the end, it just keeps going on and on with the people in the studio trying to like, hey, let's do a little salt and pepper, and some pea soup bucket of fish kind of thing. And they're trying to get the sound down. It's a great tribute to something that, it needed a tribute.
Thank you. And also, I'm obsessed with like recording studio comedy. And I've written a bunch of stuff that's all about like being in a recording studio. And there will be something in the next program that is recording studio related. And I don't know why that's so funny to me. And because you know what it is, there's so much like dick around in a recording studio, and you're just like, it's like being in a tour van, the same kind of feeling where you don't know what, you know what time it is, but you get loopy. In a recording studio, it's like that times 1,000 really, because it could be 2 a.m. It could be 2 p.m. You have no idea. Someone went outside, opened a door, and it's super bright,
Yes.
And it just lends itself to a lot of really funny conversations and just like shorthand. And so I refer to it often. Yeah. But the Take 100, I shot it at Q Division in Boston or Somerville. Ed Voluskis generously let me just go there and shoot it. And the great Chris Murphy and Ted Leo are in it, and Juliana Hatfield, all of whom I've worked with many times. And I love the idea that like Juliana, take 200s, for ladies, because they need a little extra time.
Yeah.
And it's like,
exactly.
oh, I see. They need extra time because they're just working with incompetence. That's why. That's why they need extra time, because they have to tell everybody how to, I'm not getting any bass in my headphones, you moron,
Yeah, it's a cigarette for session guys.
For session guys. You don't want a cigarette that burns too fast. You got to have it just sit there.
Well, no, and it's true.
Yeah.
Like, you used to smoke in a recording studio. You know what I mean? These places smelled like everywhere
smoke.
smelled like smoke.
Every single recording studio from the 70s or 60s that has been like found and excavated, there have been a few like in Los Angeles, and every time they open like take going through plaster, and they get to like this room, and they're like, oh my God, and there's like an ashtray still with butts in it.
Yes,
like
of
the
course.
60s.
Oh my God,
don't bother cleaning that up. Yeah, so that's the first commercial of this episode of Hollywood Palace, is the Kools in the recording studio.
It sets the tone.
It does, and it sets the tone, like you said. It's specific to a certain audience, specifically people who understand jazz, by the way. You know what I mean? Where jazz was like more of a part of like the general conversation. It was like understood. It was such a different type of presentation as like popular music also.
Right.
Versus like this fetishized thing that, only weird experts are into. It was like part of the common knowledge.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the show is none of the commercials dabble in psychedelia. They're all kind of traditional, weird. They get even weirder as it goes on. I couldn't handle some of these. I was like, oh my God, but we'll get there.
Yes.
So the show starts, and it's really interesting. There's like an actual filmed intro to this episode where it's like Peter Lawford and Sammy Davis Jr. like arguing outside of a castle, which I'm assuming maybe that's where they were shooting.
They were shooting in Scotland. It was the sequel to Salt and Pepper, which no one asked for. No one wanted it.
No one did. No
one. And
I don't even think they wanted it.
They didn't want it.
Their vibe on it is they're kind of over it.
My memory is that it was, reading about it, I know a little bit about it. I once interviewed Carol Cleveland, who was in it also, and I've seen it multiple times. It's terrible. I don't know why I've seen it multiple times.
Because you got to crack it. Sometimes you're like,
got to crack it.
I'm 10 years older. Now I'm ready for
I'm going to see it. Let's revisit it and see if it's anything. And the answer is no.
The helicopter pulls back, and it's like quite a impressive shot. But then everything else in this episode is just video, shot with television cameras.
Yeah, they borrowed that footage from the film and just dropped it in. And then, Sammy and Peter Lawford run onto the stage, and Peter Lawford immediately out of breath and stays that way for basically the whole show.
Yes. What a weirdo,
Like,
man.
what? I mean, he's the worst. By the way, I am not
Yes.
going to be kind to Peter Lawford here.
I'm right there with you. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
he's a real buzzkill.
yeah, and it is. I mean, Sammy in this episode is working overtime and has to
He is.
give so much to Peter Lawford. Like he has to be there's skits, that they didn't write that basically has to have Sammy kind of be in awe of Peter Lawford's art all of a sudden. That's really weird. And it starts off with Peter begging to do a song to Sammy, and Sammy basically being like, "This is my show. You need to get off the stage. Are you going to do one of those cockamamie songs with an umbrella?" And he's
Right.
like, "No, And
Madrigals.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. And when you just gave me the choice of this episode, you basically said, this has Peter Lawford singing Aquarius. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, done.
We're done.
This is the one we need to look at. Describe
Exactly.
to the listeners what the hell this thing is, because it's really upsetting.
It's just the worst. Okay. First of all, because they set it up. By the way, let me just say the writing is terrible. It
horrible.
The writing is always terrible on the show.
Yeah.
But Sammy Davis Jr., who is like a sextuple threat, who just can do anything, is probably the greatest host that this show has ever seen, frankly. I think that, and he hosted a couple. Really, really great. Like he should have been the permanent host, honestly. He's just great. So he drags this barnacle of a performer onto the show. And they set it up where it's like, oh, Peter Lawford, he's so square, and he's just going to do madrigals and Irish folk songs or whatever the hell. And then it's like, uh-oh, look out. Wait a minute. Nope. Peter Lawford is groovy, folks. I don't know if you've heard. So he sits in this chair, and it's Aquarius. And it's a bunch of dancers talk about working overtime. The dancers are doing all of the heavy lifting, and literally Peter Lawford is sitting in a chair the whole time, and he sings like your grandfather in the car, like, when the moon is in the seventh house. And
it's
he's so
like, pitchy. It's so pitchy, too.
It's really like, by the way, madrigals would have been like a million times less square than this performance.
Yeah.
Like do something surreal and gorgeous. Nope. So he does this thing, and it's ostensibly it's like, oh my God, who knew he had it in him?
Right.
At one point he does get up from the chair, and he does this shuffle that's like, and then it's too much for him. He has to sit back down.
Yeah, that's it. It's 30, like maybe 20 seconds of a little bit of physical therapy. Then it's back to the chair. But these poor dancers, not do they only have to support him in their dance, and they're good. I mean, the people on the show who are the orchestra and the people who are the dancers and all the support people are really talented. It's like really high level artistry. They half the time have to basically grope him and rub on him, and it's just really upsetting.
It's really upsetting. So that's the worst. And also, this is so indicative of a very specific type of sort of late 60s, Esquire magazine, like, hey, middle-aged gents, guess what? There's this thing called free love, and you might want to get in on it because they're just giving it away, And Peter Lawford could not be the worst spokesdip for this thing, And it's literally what led to movies like Breezy, where like Kate Lenz is a hitchhiker, but Bill Holden is 1,000 years old and he lives in Laurel Canyon, and he picks her up and she teaches us how to, laugh and love again.
Right.
Through the innocent eyes of a teenage hitchhiker.
Yeah.
And that is literally what's going on in this opening, where it's like the women are there to serve him, or like he's some kind of sultan sitting in a chair, and they have to touch him way more times than I think is indicated in their contracts.
Yes, absolutely.
It's really obnoxious. So he finally ends it. Thank God. We're like, And this is what starts the show. I don't know what he had to do to get this to be the opening number. Ugh, but it's so delightful. This awful crossroads of hip and square where I get my mail delivered. Seriously, like it's just wonderful how
Yes.
bad it is. It's just so bad.
Yeah, but you can imagine in real time being Sammy Davis Jr. and, just in his head, he must just be
Yeah,
like, this
yeah,
is garbage.
yeah, yeah. It's garbage, and thank God he's there because the next number, he comes in and he's kind of like, oh, I don't know how to go into my next number now. Like, who can follow that?
Yeah. Wow.
Who could follow
Who
that
knew?
number?
He says
That's
he says a
crazy.
line I love. He goes, "You pulled a sneaky,"
Yeah,
and
you pulled a
I'm going to
sneaky.
use that a lot. "You pulled a sneaky" is a really good line.
Yeah, he's basically gaslighting all of us. Like, oh, wasn't Peter Lawford so great? Like, can't you? I can't believe how great he was. Can you? And we're like, no. So then, to remind us what great really is, Sammy goes into spinning wheel, and that,
Yes.
my friend, is great. That is literally that's the on the spectrum of like sort of legacy artists doing like hip songs of the day. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best that you can ask for is Sammy doing spinning wheel, and he just knocks it out at the park. And then
Oh, he's
we're back. We're
amazing.
back. We're back online. Yeah.
He's doing like mic and chord work that I've never
Oh yeah.
seen anyone do. Just like
Yep.
really aggressively weird moments, and his dancing, and he looks so cool with his big sunglasses on, and he sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And there's a point where I just saw the Red Cross documentary, and they're talking about how Axel stole the little
Yeah.
shimmy
From
from
Davy.
Steve. Yeah, from Steve McDonald, who got it
Oh.
from, and I'm like, I think they got it. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Sammy has been doing this move forever. I realized, like
Yeah.
this really cool, like sway back and forth, just like it's just so fluid and beautiful. Like he's a star. I mean, like you said,
Yeah.
quadruple threat, whatever, a
Yeah.
million threat.
It's in more than capable hands. He really owns the show throughout and really connects with the guests and the other stars because he is like what is it, the universal blood type of performers. Like he really can just work with anyone um and make everything better. So even though the show starts with like, oh, he's dragging his old pal around and they've got to promote this sequel that nobody cares about or whatever, and you can just picture Peter Lawford backstage throughout the rest of the show, just eating everybody's food and sitting there and making demands. I really hate
Well,
him.
you forget
I hate
about
him
Peter Lawford. You forget about Peter Lawford instantly, and
completely.
he's doing it in heels. Like,
Backwards and in heels.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So then you're right. No one, we've erased, we've saged Peter Lawford from our minds. He's just incredible. Then the next guests are the Dells, who
Right.
are one of my favorite soul groups of all time. Harvey, Illinois own the Dells. And in this case, it's funny, they're doing Oh What a Night, which is one of their earlier hits, but the Dells are just unbelievable. They are just an incredible soul group. So right away, we're sort of into a new kind of vibe with the whole show.
Yes.
And they look great. And again, through Spinning Wheel, and then the Dolls, like as the set sort of changes in subtle ways behind everybody, the lighting and
Yep.
the set pieces and stuff, everybody looks fantastic, you
Yeah, I
know?
wanted to ask you about the set piece too, and it's also really cool that it's like, I mean, it's like four of the five original members are still performing at this point together,
Hmm.
since like the early
Yeah.
'50s they've been around,
Yes.
and so it's like kind of history too, it's
Yeah.
really kind of awesome. They have two of the singers on the floor, and then they have this little tiered, take a Devo energy dome hat, stretch it out, paint it like sparkly gold, and put them on it. And it's like really narrow for them to be up there, like the three singers.
Yeah.
But I love
Mhm.
it because it's like it feels like, okay, well, we used this like 2 months ago. Let's paint it a different color. Let's put it out there. But then you're right. In the background, the subtle change that happens between Spinning Wheel and this song, it's like completely different energy,
Hmm.
different type of look, different type of lighting. It's kind of awesome, but it'd be really easy
Yeah.
to miss that.
And it's right for them. It brings the room down. Everything is very synesthetic. Like everything just kind of fits and makes sense. The decisions that they make throughout as they're changing energies and changing genres and this whole thing is really stunning, you know. And not every episode is this way necessarily. Sometimes there are more sticky, kitschy things that they do, depending on the host, depending on what they do. But for the most part, I mean, but the production design is just, I keep talking about it, but like, it's just my dream to be able to have these types of set pieces and be able to lean into the simplicity of that kind of just performance based, like shooting something for television, which I try to recreate as best as I can. The good news is that it is simple. Sometimes I've achieved it just with like a star filter on the camera, to recreate that kind of feeling of like, David Gates performing somewhere, you know what I mean, in the 70s, on television. And but I am just stunned by the work that went into the set design. But I'm just saying that this is why somebody needs to give me like
Yes.
$1 billion to do it, because I would know I would know what to do with that money. I'm just saying. Anyway, it's beautiful.
I mean, you've watched a lot of these. Is it mostly live vocals and
Yeah,
performances?
sometimes yes. And this episode features quite a bit of live vocal. But yes, yeah,
It's like they're moving physically in real time from set to set.
it really requires a choreography and, just direction that is just brilliant. It's a specific type of direction to like a ballet, really.
Yeah.
Using the set as almost the set is like a character, in this sense, because it has so much motion going on.
And it's just like, and this week, this is what we're doing. Next week, it's going to be completely different.
Yeah. Oh
Like
yeah. Oh
bring the
yeah.
elephant in, bring the elephant in, and it'll just be a different type of
Burn
vibe.
the
So it,
elephant hair. It's time.
exactly, exactly. And then I want to give a sense like, okay, so then it goes into a commercial. So it'd be like, this is the timing of how long it takes. It'd be like, all right, we'll be back.
Okay. Okay. The Alka Seltzer.
Yes.
This is a timely one, still relevant. Candidates apparently eat a lot on the campaign trail,
Yes.
and there's this candidate who's like, he's he's eating pizza, and I mean, he's eating pizza
Yeah.
on on the campaign trail. So anyway, he's
Noodles.
sick. Yeah, everyone's shoving food in his face, and
Yeah.
he's like, "What am I made of stone? I'm gonna,
One of the lines in it is, well, once in a while, we all have to overeat, which I'm
we
like, you
don't."
know, yeah, you know how it is. Like, just once in a while, we all, and it's like those times when somebody makes something just for you and you won't feel fulfilled until you feel full. And I'm like, wow. So,
You don't need to eat the entire pizza pie. Like, you're not
yeah,
gonna lose this neighborhood's vote if you just take like a sensible bite and like
yeah,
move on. I mean,
yeah. And
so
these
that was,
commercials
yeah,
are shot on like 16 millimeter and they're
yes.
like cross faded with like, so there's this weird kind of dreamy thing of him going from food to food and like being pushed through a crowd. And then at the end, he's just kind of like, it's
I'm
like
done.
he's alone. It's like all of a sudden, like it's looks like a, early 70s political thriller is going to happen. He's alone with the TV and it's just like he's got his Alka Seltzer and this is what it's all been about.
Yep. And then we have a commercial that ends up being for children's vitamins, but it's like when every mom had a smoker's voice where it's like, my
Yes.
son needs a lot of vitamin B.
Yeah, it's like
Where are my pteridins?
it's so weird. They're just talking about your little boy, you need to feed him like a man, you know. They need to get the vitamins of a man. And then a big puff on their cigarette, which
Yeah.
I'm sure the children were stealing and putting in their, little lunch pail as well in this household. But these commercials have a sense of unease to them. They're kind of voyeuristic and and like not based in reality, even though it's supposed to be something simple like sending your kid to school with lunch. It's like,
Yeah.
well, we gotta like have a little plot line here.
It's very it's like a soap opera almost. It's got like there's a weird narrative to all of it. It has to
Yeah,
do with it would not be out of place to hear like an organ or something. It's all about some drama is happening
that's
between
true.
a girlfriend and a boyfriend, or a man and a wife, or a mother and a son, and it's all this. It's very surreal. And I like to imagine you know the Sterling Cooper Draper Price advertising houses that
Right.
are pitching these things in the room, to these companies. Because these were national campaigns,
Absolutely.
very strange vibes to them. Not everything was a winner. Not everything was plop plop fizz fizz. They had to
Yeah.
throw a lot of
Oh,
neighborhood pizza at the wall to see what would stick. You know what I mean?
there's some coming up though that that just
I
do my
can't
head
wait.
in. Yeah, yeah. But it is funny. It's like, oh, all kids still traded food for slingshots and frogs. It's like, it's America. That's what
Yeah,
happens when you send your
yeah.
kid to school. They don't want to eat.
You got to pump them full of vitamins and nicotine. That's how
That's
that's
right. And then we come back and it's Sammy introducing, is it Dana Valeri? Is that
Donna Valeri, who
Donna Valeri?
yeah, who is an Italian singer and actress and personality. Again, she's like a quadruple threat. She's Sergio Franchi's sister, another singer and actor, famous, always on Ed Sullivan. Anyway, so she does More Today Than Yesterday, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
She
it's
immediately
killer.
comes in hot with like,
So hot
so
in it.
great. I mean,
Yeah, she comes in very hot.
she does. And you're like, sure, I love her. She's
Yeah.
great. And then she does this kind of like Italian medley that is just, you know, Mamma Mia, like I need some
Yeah.
Alka Seltzer. I got heartburn.
Yeah. She's selling it so hard though.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's so physically emotive with her eyes, and her body is vibrating with passion and energy for these songs. But I did some research on her because I wasn't super familiar with her, but she was on TV all the time. And like within
Hmm.
2 years, she was like you said, Ed Sullivan Show, the Kraft Music Hall,
Yeah.
Jonathan Winters Show, Operation Entertainment, The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, The Jimmy Rogers Show, The Liberace Show, The Engelbert Humperdinck Show, The Des O'Connor Show. It just shows how much of this stuff was part of television.
Yep.
Every night, we're going to have an hour of this kind of programming on 3 different networks.
Yeah. These personalities who these shows, I mean, this was the circuit for them. I mean, it was like a
Yeah,
real circuit, these variety shows, just like anything else, and that's how so many of these artists were known. And actually, so many of them, when the variety show kind of fell out of, later, um, when it stopped being a thing, really. More towards the 80s, really, it sort of changed to stuff that was more like real people and this type of thing. But those artists went away too. They didn't stick with in the consciousness, really. They were some artists, not all, that did these circuits. Like Senior Wences is a great example. Like
sure.
people remember who Senior Wences was because he did that circuit for the most part. But like, it's not as if people are still talking about him. So, right? You know, and but there are a lot of sort of sub Wences that didn't really even get the notoriety that he did, who made their living going around to these shows, and it's very, you know, right out of vaudeville. Honestly, it's a vaudeville presentation. I mean, that's really ultimately what it boils down to, is that it's
Right.
vaudeville for television. And so just like how some vaudevillians made it to the big screen, or, ended up in television, and then some of them just went the way of the dodo. So, and it just aren't in the public consciousness, the way that others managed to do. So anyway, I think Donna Valeria is not, she, she did so many things. She ended up becoming a Reiki healer down the line, which I just, every time I see something like that, I'm like, man, that is the move. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
that's it. I'm like 2 months away from, from becoming a Reiki healer and just say, forget it. I'm done with this.
It's better than Peter Lawford being a Reiki healer, though. That would be really upsetting to find out. You're like, oh, no, 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 no.
Yeah, I don't want you to touch my aura. I don't want.
Yes. But he's like, but here's a smoke. We'll start there, and then we'll get to work.
Yes, exactly. Let me sage the room. And he lights like a more cigarette, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing on this show is that they let things play out. Like performances sometimes stretch into 6 or 7 minutes by an artist. You know, it's not like, oh, okay, we're watching the clock. We need more advertising in here like it is nowadays. They would not give 7 minutes for someone to do a musical performance anymore.
Can you imagine? I mean, even the biggest star in the world on like Saturday Night Live, like they wouldn't do it. Really, it's unheard of. But it's also again about that sort of comfort of like longer form, which in this case we're talking about literally minutes. But television allowing things to breathe a little bit more,
Right.
and so not worrying that you're going to lose an like part of the audience. I mean, we've got it dialed in now where bands basically start a song with the chorus because they know that that's what's going to
Right.
get like a Spotify hit on it,
Right.
So the idea of having an artist do a medley that seemingly never ends for 7 minutes or whatever, people are, and the thing is, they're not wrong. Like I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, but people check out,
Yeah.
and don't just sort of let the entertainment wash over them
Right.
and just be passive observers of. And this is the thing I'm always fighting against too, not to talk about me, but I really want to make stuff that is a little bit longer form. I want it to be paced, but I also want people to just relax into it. The longest piece in program 4 is the Miss Dry Foam.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that's the longest segment. It just goes on with descriptions of these
Right.
products that you might win if some of our departing contestants will receive. And it goes on. And I mean, I really sort of sat with it. I was like, should I tighten this up? And I was like, I'm not gonna tighten it. I'm gonna let it
Yeah.
just continue. It's just endless products. Where it's like, is this show just like, oops, all products,
Yeah.
all
Exactly.
consolation prizes? Which was really what I wanted to do, was just a consolation prize carousel and have it go on for just like way too long. But yeah, you're right. I mean, she does go on, but she's so enjoyable to watch. It's such a delightful segment.
Yeah, she's killer,
She's
and
great.
again, we're doing a long form conversation about the Hollywood Palace. So
Yeah.
you're preaching to the converted. I'm right there with you. It's like it takes as long as it takes. Sometimes you need to get in and out, but this is something that we're obviously both obsessed with,
Yeah.
and we're trying to paint some pictures here, like
Yeah.
this next commercial.
Oh God.
Which is so. I don't even know legally how they did this.
I don't know.
And I didn't know that this product still exists. White Owl. The cigar still, their smoking products still exist. I have never heard of this place or this company. But what they're proposing, I don't know how they legally could do that.
Is it like a cigar contest of like a taste test?
Yeah, they basically say, take a puff on their cigar. Now take a puff on a White Owl. Now send your name, address, and name of any comparable price cigar to White Owl, P.O. Box 40, New York, New York, and we'll send you one of theirs and one of ours for a test.
I guarantee that not one of these was fulfilled.
I feel the same way. Like, I could just imagine like a 10-year-old being like, all right, I got some postcards to send out. I just don't see how this could have happened.
No, I know. And it's that same, what I love about it too is like the address is like White Owl, box 5, like,
yeah, yes,
we got the 5th box in the whole city of New York. Okay. But anyway, it's a weird vibe. It's like, almost threatening in a weird way, like,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, you think you could find a better cigar? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. See if you can find it. You know what? We're so confident that we're going to actually offer you. You know what I mean? It's like, what am I going to do? Give this guy my name and personal address?
Yes, you
You
are.
know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I guarantee that people did send away for it, but I'm sure nothing ever
It
came
was
of it.
never fulfilled.
No.
This weird, vaguely threatening offer that they have no intention on fulfilling. And then after that is one of my favorite things because
Oh my God.
how many commercials from this era just start with one word like irregularity? And then like you know what I'm talking about. Irregularity, period. The guy who did the voiceovers for this type of stuff, it's so specific to this era, you
Yeah.
know, and and the word is like huge on the screen, and
Yes.
it's like they're not mincing words here. This is X-lax.
Yeah, and it's like elderly people, like again, cross-faded images of elderly people in a park looking up once in a while at the sky or doing some, walking around, and it's very like kind of slow and weird. It's like kind of what they would show in Soylent Green, when they're dying or something.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's literally what the it's what the people in Soylent Green watch
Yeah,
before they die.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's true. So
Swear to you, it's probably the same filmmaker who made that
yes.
sequence. I'm guessing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's hilarious. Yeah, X-lax.
Yeah,
Boy, oh
exactly.
boy.
But then it rushes back in. We got Sammy with
Yeah,
Lionel Hampton.
this is so great.
Incredible.
This is so great. First of all, Lionel Hampton is just the great. I mean, first of all, the vibes are like my favorite instrument of all time. It's just such a great. Uh, it's got like a negative attack to it almost. It's like this sort of. It's this beautiful sound. The vibes and the Rhodes piano are two of my favorite sounds.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very comparable. And so he and Sammy are clearly just so tuned into each other. Like Sammy, of course, can play the vibes. Why not? Of course he can. And then they do this sort of drum off that is fantastic. You know what I mean? Everything's just set up for them to kind of just play around and do whatever they're going to do. And it's just wonderful, and it sounds fantastic too.
Yeah, and you can tell they have a relationship, which they did.
Mm-hmm.
They toured, when Sammy Davis Jr. was younger.
Yep.
And so there's just a comfortability where they're like, oh,
Yep.
we know how to do this. Like, we're going to, play off each other with the vibes, and there's going to be some humor in it. And
Sammy was probably like, set this stuff up and we'll take it from there. It's what I have the sense of with this segment. It
yes,
doesn't feel like it was really planned. I mean, compare this segment to the segments with Peter Lawford, who needs, you know, things written for him in crayon so that he can do the line because he's not, he's not good
no, he
on
has
camera
30
like this.
people around him moving nonstop while he sits in a chair. And this is just two people at the front of the stage
Yeah.
just having a blast. And it's
Having
like,
fun
to me, like
organically.
this could have gone on way longer than it did.
Oh, I could watch this. This could have been the whole show. I mean, really,
Exactly.
it's so great. And it's really, I mean, this is, it, it's like a privilege almost
Yeah.
to be in the presence of these two. This is one of those moments too on this show and other variety shows where, and there are a couple of moments like this, and we're going to get to another one soon, but where two people, two random people, whomever it is, the host and the guest or whatever, where it's just this incredible moment between them, and you can tell that there is a respect and probably a friendship, extraordinary talent on both sides. And then it's like this chocolate and peanut butter situation where, I mean, it just it's this privilege to observe them
Yeah.
together, um, kind of doing this really one-off thing that you normally wouldn't see. And
Yeah.
I still feel that to this day watching it. It's my second favorite No. See, it's tied with the Dells, but it's my second favorite segment
Yeah. It's
in
killer.
this
And
show of a lot of good segments.
it's so good. And the other great thing about it is there's a couple things. One is he does that amazing leap onto the tom tom Lionel Hampton does and dances on it, and you're just like, I cannot do that. That's intense. Like, it's such a
Yeah.
cool stage move. And the other thing is you get a real sense of the scale of the stage for the first time in a weird way, because the orchestra is kind of pulled back into the side, and it's a much larger stage than the illusion was earlier, for like spinning wheel and things, where the lighting
Yeah.
and some of the stuff is brought
It's
closer.
closed in. Yeah.
The amount of space they had, and I was kind of impressed. I didn't know that scale of it. So you filling me in on like the history of it has kind of put a better scope on it for me of what they had to work
Yeah.
with and where they could store stuff and how quickly they could move things in and out.
Well, I assume that, like, I mean, I'm sure for for television, you want to have it be in 4:3 television. You want everything to be kind of like in the compact in a way, depending on what it is. But yeah, you're right. That is one of the moments where you can kind of see, because they have a larger setup. They've got not just like, a chair. Can someone get Peter Lawford a chair?
Mm.
You know, they actually have. I'm just going to be mean to Peter Lawford I'm just like, I'm so mad at him right now.
It's in the DNA.
He's just like,
He's the worst.
It's just the worst. So yeah, it's amazing. I mean, like I said, swimming pool,
Yeah.
they were they were going to put a swimming pool in the floor.
Right.
I mean, they had ambition for this space. But it is beautiful, and all the instruments just look great.
Yeah.
It's a really wonderful segment.
And if you're getting a sense now of where we're going with our love of the commercials in this thing, hold on. For some reason, this next one upsets me for a very simple, well, many reasons, but it is such a clunky premise of putting grape juice and cranberry juice together. And
Yeah.
they have these little comedic moments of like a cowboy hiding behind a wooden barrel with grape juice in it and a wooden barrel with cranberry juice, and the holes get shot out of it and they combine together. But the thing that upsets me the most is that they call it GrapeBerry. For some reason, I'm like, GrapeBerry? That's wrong, isn't it?
It's wrong.
It's upsetting.
Do you see grape? Let me ask you this, Chris. Do you see GrapeBerry in the stores now?
No.
The only good thing about that commercial is the fact that the jingle is sung by, it sounds like almost Margot Gurrian or somebody, or like a Blossom Dearie. It's a kind of a beautiful jingle. But yeah, no, GrapeBerry is not a thing. Ocean Spray threw a lot of stuff at a wall to make it stick.
Yes.
Ocean Spray, one of the sponsors of this whole show. We see more Ocean Spray later, I believe.
Yes, I have a question even up to the last minute that's Ocean Spray related. Audience, you just have to wait. You just have to hold your horses. The other
stand by.
The other commercial that follows it is also something from a bygone era of just one sweaty man with a big head talking to you about toothpaste.
Okay, it's Arthur Godfrey.
Okay, now who is that?
A show business guy who was like, he did a bunch of, not a comedian, but like an actor and personality.
So people would know him, like watching this. They'd be
Arthur Godfrey is recognizable.
Okay.
Arthur Godfrey was one of the hosts. I believe he was on Hollywood Palace.
Okay.
You want to talk about upsetting? The worst thing that ever happened on television happens in this commercial, which is, first of all, it's Arthur Godfrey for Colgate. And he's talking about Colgate or whatever. And then he
Yep.
he brings up the toothbrush with some toothpaste on it, and he licks it with his tongue. He puts his tongue out I mean, and he's like, and it's the worst thing that has ever been caught on camera. It's the worst. It's really horrifying. His little tongue darts out.
Yes.
Taste it. To taste the toothpaste.
It does dart out. It is not.
It darts.
Yeah. It's like he's secretly trying an ice cream cone.
It's like a surreptitious, I'm not allowed to lick it, but I'm gonna,
Yes.
he's like, I'm gonna try
So
it.
I'm a naughty boy.
Yeah, look at me. And I mean, it's just creepy. So yeah, he tastes I have in my notes, I have in all caps, he tastes the toothpaste with his tongue, like shocked, all caps, like, no, that's what I wrote down. It's like,
Yeah, and his just demeanor, and it's like this one is shot really simply compared to a lot of the
yeah,
stuff. It's just him sitting on a stool,
yeah,
but you don't, it's just from the waist up, and it's him and his Colgate toothpaste, and that's all you get. It's like he's
yeah.
enough to sell you on this. Like people are going to be like, "Oh, well, of course, I'm going to go out. I love him. I'm switching toothpaste and I'm going to lick it all the time now. It's going to be great."
He tasted it, and so now I, now I'm gonna try it.
Yes.
Now, based on that,
Well, and it's amazing as a culture. That's how we all do it now. We all do it because of this commercial. We learned it. He started the movement that we all lick the toothpaste that way now. So historically, this is important.
God, it's
So
awful.
yeah, it's horrible.
He's creepy anyway. So next up, we have, after the horror. I mean, it took me like, I want to say 5 or 10 minutes to recover from that Arthur Godfrey commercial. But we have the delightful Rosey Greer,
I know. What a celeb.
who is, by the way, let me just say this. If you look at the costume design throughout this show, it's almost as if they had one big piece of fabric in the back and they just cut it into a bunch of stuff, a bunch of stuff for everybody.
That's
And
true.
it's true. So Rosey Greer's wearing this fantastic shirt.
I have a question about the shirt though.
Okay.
What are those shirts? He's wearing this like paisley shirt, but it's got like belt loops in the shirt, not in the pants. But he has this blue belt that goes through the shirt with belt
Yeah.
loops, not the pants. What's that about? I have not seen that
I've
before.
seen that. I mean, I feel like it's just this thing where it's just a style to kind of keep things nice and, battened down,
Okay.
maybe. I've seen it before. I feel like it was a style.
Okay. I never owned a belt buckled shirt, but I was kind of in awe of it. I was like, it's different, and he looks great in it. You know what I mean? He looks really cool.
We have Rosey Greer, who again is a triple threat. He's a football player, a singer, and a needle pointer. That's what
Wow.
he has a book about needlepoint for men, and
When
I
was
will
that
send it to
from?
you. It was from then.
Wow, that's
Rosey
amazing.
Greer's needlepoint. Rosey Greer's needlepoint for men.
When he picks Sammy Davis Jr. up in his arms,
It's
um,
amazing.
it's really amazing. The scale.
Yeah, he had a variety show too for at this time for ABC. I'm sure that they just did the crossover thing and had him
Oh,
come
sure.
by. Um, but he's also a real natural in this environment.
Yeah.
And he's a lot of fun. And then, him and Sammy are immediately, again, Sammy, he makes everybody better. And really throws him some fun jokes and stuff. And he's really getting into it. And then the whole thing is ruined because
Yes.
Peter Lawford has to show up. And now he's wearing he's got his like white tunic or, whatever. God, he's just absolutely the worst. He just kills everything. He's just a total buzzkill.
Imagine if he just wasn't in this.
I thought about it all day.
Sammy could have had a different song at the top, or they could have brought another artist in. But definitely, this was also the era where it's like, of course, they're movie tie-ins, and like this thing needs to come out to be tied into this product that's coming out, or this movie or TV show. And like you said, a lot of cross-pollination. And so I'm sure like between 20th Century Fox and MGM and Screen Gems and whatever, like all these record
Right.
labels and movie companies and TV production companies were like, just trying to be like, oh, you want Rosey Greer, then don't give us Peter Lawford, and they just go like that.
Yeah, and I mean, again, of course, because it's Sammy, he kind of he makes it work, and but Peter Lawford shows up, and they do kind of a shtick, the three of them, and
It's a low point of the show, though. I mean,
yeah, Yeah.
It just feels tacked on, like it's kind of underneath what they could have done.
This definitely goes on too long.
Yes.
I mean, you really feel it. And they're filling time at this point, which is like, why don't you just bring the Dells back out?
I
You
know. I thought the
like,
same thing.
why do we need? They're right there. They're literally right over there. You know, they're have them come out and do "Stay in My Corner." You know, come on. But Rosie's they're showcasing everybody, and so this looks like it's probably what you're describing, which is lip service to everybody who got them booked.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. And you know, of course, one of the things you were talking about with the vaudeville thing, and I was thinking about it when you mentioned it. I was like, well, where are the people who do imitations? And I'm like, oh, well, this is the section where it's like, oh, we got to do John Wayne, and we got to do Betty Davis and Jimmy Cagney and King Kong and Cary Grant. It's like, all right, they did get that in there, like the kind of hammy vaudevillian moments that need to happen in something like this.
It's a very familiar beat too for the audience, and it's just kind of like a standard stock moment that is not very strong, especially Peter Lawford. Yeah.
This is where you reach over and you grab for your take 200s and you light it up. Gives you a chance to relight and get ready and get your tumbler filled and, you know.
Oh, definitely. I'm going to go get my cutty and water from the kitchen.
Yep.
I'm getting I'm comparing cigars.
Yes.
I've got a lot of stuff.
I'm writing down. Yeah. I got to get this P.O. box right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The next two commercials have some special moments in it.
Oh yes. Because first of all, it's a commercial for Excedrin PM is the first one.
Yes.
And it's got the classic, like there are a couple of commercials back then where someone just loses their shit.
Yes.
A mom or a wife or somebody, or there's a famous like headache commercial where the woman's like, "Mother, please, I'd rather do it myself," you know. This is one of those. This like probably abusive mother is screaming at like a sleepover, like, God, your alcoholic mom is really a bummer.
Rough. It is so upsetting. It's like John Cassevettes styled drama, you know? It's like Gina Rowlands walking in and yelling.
It literally could be Gina Rowlands.
Yes.
I said also, it's got a little bit, and then this like sort of Gil Malay music. It's kind of like Night Gallery towards the end. It's very like,
it's really spooky at the end.
Yes.
She yells at these kids, and then she just exhaustedly turns out the hallway light and sits for a beat in the darkness, and then walks down this hallway to the light.
Right.
At the end of the hallway, and it's like that getting on the spaceship Close Encounters kind of light. It's really like,
she died.
This is going into another world. Right.
Yeah, she died.
It's so weird.
It's really creepy. It's very dark.
Yeah, there's no moment where in the commercial where it shows lightness from this person. No. Like she goes like, oh, some kid comes in and throws a pillow on her and she laughs or something. It's like she's miserable in her existence and she's going to bed.
Her husband didn't come home. Yeah.
Nope. Yep.
There's a lot of other stuff going on. Okay. And you can just imagine. And yeah, normally with these commercials, they do that. They do like the the music changes. It's like a harp, like it's just like fresh and angelic, and says something kind and says something nice, which is, in the mother, please, I'd rather do it myself. There's an effect to the medicine. This one does not show any bright side. Like, does not show her sleeping. It doesn't show her rested. It doesn't show her apologizing to a room full of children. It doesn't say, it's like nothing. It just goes into the light. Yeah, it's just really bizarre.
These commercials are amazing. And at the store, I loved being able to get like something weird would put out like 2 hours of cigarette commercials or 2 hours of beer commercials. I was always obsessed with watching those. And these commercials are in that same high class of upsetting. Just like, what is the product? Half the time you don't know till the very last second. But the next commercial is interesting because I believe it features Judy Grabert from Electric Company in it.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yes, it's Judy Grabert, who did a lot of commercials and was in Second City, did albums. Like
Okay.
I have one of her albums called like Jewish American Princess or something. I have it. And then also Candy Azara plays her friend in the elevator. And she was on Rhoda and
Okay.
a bunch of other stuff. She played like Joe's secretary for a while on Rhoda. Um, Rhoda had a lot of like kind of like a round robin of a lot of like interesting female character actors come through, and she was one of them. And Mira was another one, and Barbara Schwarmer, and So anyway, so yeah, it's the two of them, and it's great. I love them both.
I do too. This is a great commercial.
It is, yeah, and
Yeah.
they're just both wonderful. Like I kind of wish they were both bigger, made it a little bigger. Judy is almost like I refer to her as sort of like a kids Gilda. I mean Gilda is kids Gilda, but like Judy has that
I know what you
Gilda
mean.
vibe. You know what I mean? And when she was on Electric Company, she was like the Gilda Radner of Electric Company. I feel like I mixed them up.
Yeah. Her voice is so unique, and just like the minute I didn't even see her face and I heard
Yeah,
her voice, I was like,
yeah,
oh, that's the person from Electric Company. And it's fun. It's a dry band commercial. So they're taking this guy's glasses off and spraying them to show like, oh, see this deodorant
funny.
doesn't do the thing. And
Hmm.
it's quick, it's sweet, and it's just it's just fun for a change.
It's like it's honestly it's more entertaining than Peter Lawford for sure, but it is definitely the two of them have really good chemistry. Like I would love to see a show with the two of them, honestly.
Yeah, the dry band show,
The dry band brought to you
Yeah,
by brought to you by dry
by
band.
Colgate.
Yeah.
Colgate, the
Take a
toothpaste you
little lick of
lick.
it. Take a lick of the toothpaste from the toothbrush. Awful. Terrible. I have to go to therapy from that one.
Yeah, they're like, there's no toothpaste left. You licked all the toothpaste,
I'm a bad little boy.
but
Yeah.
it's so good. I just do what the man on the TV tells me to
It
do.
just took a
So,
widow taste. Yeah, it was terrible. So yeah, that's probably I want to say that that's like one of the better quality ads, like
yes, it's
on its
smart.
merits, just
Yeah.
completely just kind of clever and
It feels
cute.
modern.
Yep.
It feels like more of the time. Like, it's just like, we're going to zip through this. It's going to be fun and kind of absurd. And we're going to kind of wink at the camera a bit.
Also, it features two sort of like urbane women talking about something in an elevator. Like they're, obviously, working women who are, having like a really kind of fun discussion. I love that ad. That's a great one. It's always nice to see Judy show up, and also Candy Azara, who I just I love her. I wish she would have was more of a household name. Okay, but I'm just excited too. But that sets the tone for the next segment, which I want to say is my favorite segment, um, because it's Mama Cass Elliott,
Yeah.
who should be on Currency. So she's just made for this format, and she would have been she was a huge variety star, but I think like had she lived, that she would have been. I mean, there's no ceiling to what she could have done. The talent was
I
just like
totally agree.
immense, and I love her so much. I think she's got the
Yeah.
greatest voice. They always talk about the mamas and the papas. Their fifth voice they named Harvey, but I think most of Harvey is Cass. I think that Cass is she really holds it down, and I'm so glad that she was the one who honestly went on to adapt to what was coming in the 70s in terms of variety format, and sitting in for Johnny Carson, and she would have been she would have had her own show. Like,
Yeah, definitely. She would have been in movies. It's
mhm,
like, it's guaranteed.
there's no telling what she could have done. And her and Sammy are also sort of made for each other. They collaborate a lot. You see them together a lot. And in this episode, it's just fantastic. You can see that the two of them really work well together. There's a mutual respect, of course. And, she's just a natural on the camera. She's one of those people, again, like You feel confident in her handling things and improvising and just knowing, and her vibe is real loose, and she's singing live, of course,
They feel like they really enjoy each other, like they love each other. You know what I mean? That they got each other's back.
Yep.
And I was a little worried when the song started. I dig rock and roll music because of the Mama and Papa line in it. I was like, oh, are they going to do it? But they switch out all the musicians in this version with like Ike and Tina Turner and James Brown
Yeah.
and Aretha Franklin. So they do like little breakdowns where, Sammy gets to do I'm Black and I'm Proud,
Yeah.
and they're doing like the call and response, to Ray Charles song and stuff. It's pretty fun, and it feels like off the cuff. That's what I like about it, is like, even though they rehearsed it, they knew what they were doing. It's not over rehearsed. It's like they're like, we got it.
100%. They 100% were like in rehearsal, and it's like, and then I'm going to do this and you do that thing, and then we're going to go here, and they had it. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like they had a shorthand. They knew what they were doing, and it's just great. And I also love the swapping of the soul singers in, is so great. And it can't be sort of understated or overstated that, the other thing about the variety circuit is that it was so integrated with all kinds of artists from all walks of life, from every corner. And so it was not just like, especially in this era in the late 60s, everybody was like, show business was just a place where all of these people came and like came together. You see it time and time again. It's not just on this show, but if you watch like the Grammys from this year, where you have like the Fifth Dimension and Dionne Warwick and all these other, everybody is just like together, and the presentation is so beautiful, and just really about like experiencing music and sharing that experience in a way that I feel is really, it's magical, I think, coming from different backgrounds or whatever. And it's great. When the average American viewer is at home and you're watching this, it normalizes so much. It normalizes things that normally under whatever circumstances on the news or anywhere else, you're seeing that there's division and there's this and that. But honestly, it normalizes like empowerment and women and Black artists. It's a very like melting pot feeling, which lets the viewer at home see what people sort of absorb things in a way that, we tell them what is kind of normal, you know what I mean? And what is
Right.
considered to be um, kind of like accepted, and where everybody belongs. And so I just really love that, because we have come up in an era now in the last particularly the last like 20 or 30 years, where things are very isolated, like I said, narrow casted, or focus grouped, or we need to design this specifically for one group and not another. And it's just, and so to watch it now, you realize like, God, we've actually gone backwards in the way that we present things. We as consumers of art and culture, we will go out of our way to find things, and hopefully leave your comfort zone to find something or discover something that isn't just presented to that you didn't just grow up with. But
Right.
that's, like I said, it's one of the things I love the most about the variety format, where it's like, we're going to show you all kinds of stuff and combinations of things that you won't expect and you won't necessarily be exposed to wherever you are, which is
And
great.
you got to come along,
You've got
like
to
this is
join
where
us.
we're headed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's where we're headed. Exactly. So I really love this segment a lot, and they're just a lot of fun together.
Unlike the next commercial break, this one might have been the most upsetting of them all. It's a boyfriend girlfriend having a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically says, "We're through." He's like, in his car, he goes, "What's wrong?" She's like, "According to you, bad breath," and storms off. And then her friend in their apartment goes, "Listen, Jody, my boyfriend said my breath could stop an elephant at 40 paces. And she's like, "What would you do?" Colgate 100, the mouthwash for lovers,
Ugh.
with a kiss sound.
It's terrible.
I was like, holy shit. There was it was actually branded mouthwash for lovers. Incredible.
No, there was an entire line of like oral hygiene products that were designed for people who were about to make sweet love with their lover. So this was one. Then you had Close Up, which was literally sex toothpaste, whatever. And then
Oh,
you
wow,
know,
I remember that. I didn't know that.
oh, it was
I
red. It
remember
was
it.
like the red light district of toothpaste. And
Okay.
then they had like was it Pearl Drops, where the commercial was literally this one, I'm not even gonna do it, but she was like, "Oh, it's a great feeling." She licks her teeth. It makes Arthur Godfrey look, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, first of all, let's just go back for a second. My boyfriend said my breath could stop an elephant at 40 paces. It's like, dump that asshole. Are you seriously? Like that was
Absolutely.
could stop an elephant at 40 paces.
You can hear the people writing this ad copy. Like, you
Oh,
can
it's
smell the
very,
room.
yep,
You can, yeah, it's just a
yep,
bunch of,
yep.
like gray business types just being like, "All right, right. Well, and what would she say that's funny?"
My breath, and then the delivery, my breath could stop an elephant at 40 paces. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, Jan.
Yeah, no, you did a much better read.
Yeah. No one's ever said that in their, like, in real life, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the big thing about the commercial is not just that, but like, she throws her a bottle and she misses it, the catch, and it lands on the floor, and it's like, "Oh, but it's in a new plastic bottle too, so win-win, right?" So they're like jamming in this, like, "Oh, look what you get with your special mouthwash for lovers." Like, if you have it on the bedside and in passion, you accidentally knock it onto your carpet,
Yeah. It
no
won't break.
problem.
Yeah.
It won't break. We're
Right.
good.
Right.
And then the end of the commercial sucks hard.
So terrible.
The couple, like you said, those commercials where they all sit and have to do a little choke at the end or sparkle, it's like, oh no, they just got married and they're driving away, but they also have bottles of the mouthwash tied to the back of their just married car as decoration. It's like, oh, this is beautiful.
No, this is a great idea. You should all go out and get plastic mouthwash bottles. I just think it's so cute from a DIY perspective. And in fact, I
Yes.
feel like Etsy needs to have more of that. Because I just think it's delightful when you're planning your wedding. If it wasn't for all of that mouthwash, I would have never been able to please this abusive asshole that I have now
Yeah.
married. So
Who told somebody so you could hear about the bad breath. He did not tell you. Yeah, that commercial sucks, but I do love it.
well, of course. It's the mouthwash for lovers.
You could have put that in your show and I'd be like, "Oh, gross. That's horrible. What's going on?"
Actually, the Groove Tube did this. The Groove Tube, which is like one of my
Oh,
favorite
I remember
movies
it.
of all day.
Oh,
So
yeah, I saw that way too young.
so did I. My dad found it on VHS. It was like his favorite movie. He and my mom saw it in an underground theater in Chicago when it first came out, like on a date. And so when it
Yes.
came out on VHS, he couldn't wait to get it and make us watch it because we was, oh, it's so hilarious. It's very inappropriate we watched it and we were obsessed with it too.
Same here, but I didn't get the jokes. Like the dealers when they're eating the weed, I was like, so they're eating like spinach? What's going on? I was like 7 or 8. I had no idea, but it's like the dealers that work all day, work all
Work
day.
all
Yeah,
day, work all day.
Yeah, I was obsessed with it too.
We love the Groove too. There's a commercial for a mouthwash, or it was a toothpaste or something, where they're all foamed. Their mouths are all foamed with toothpaste, and then they just start making out and making a mess with the
Yeah.
toothpaste. So that's what it made me think of.
But the last commercial of the show is kind of surprising that we haven't seen this type of commercial yet, because it's very of the time in terms of like the idea of a family band.
Family band. I love a family band. And
Me too.
And it's Ocean Spray again, coming in with whatever. They're trying everything.
Yeah. Dad's on a flute.
This is a completely different campaign now. I don't know who's in charge over there, but I swear to God, they got word during this broadcast that the GrapeBerry was not working, and they literally pulled it and replaced it while Rosey Greer and Peter Lawford and Sammy were stretching for time. It was literally the Ocean Spray guy off camera, like, stretch it, because we have to quickly just go next. We're going to shoot this commercial and do a completely different track. We're taking another track here. So that's what happened. It's now the start of something big. This will be the start of something big. So this lasted again another couple days. This did not last for Ocean Spray.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we can spin this into a TV series.
Sure.
I see albums.
The sprayers.
The
ba ba ba. It's the sprayers.
And the dad on the flute.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it ends really weird too, like through the mom bringing them their laced, I'm assuming dosed drinks, they all of a sudden imagine that they're playing like in Shea Stadium at the end of the commercial. It's the only thing I could figure out is after they drink it, mom's spiced it up a little bit for the family, and they're tripping into the future, the rock future.
Yeah, they're having a collective psychedelic kind of vision of what Ocean Spray is gonna bring them, something big. That's all they know.
What's interesting in this last section of the show is that when it goes back to Sammy Davis Jr., he says right up front, he says, like, I do dig rock and roll music. I think it's marvelous. All the things.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what that means, but then he says, like, soul music kills me.
Yeah.
But I got to confess, though I do it occasionally, it's not really my bag. I hope one day it will be. And then he introduces Al Viola, who's like
great,
legendary
jazz
guitar player for Sinatra. Yeah, incredible. I think he even did the mandolin in The Godfather.
He did. That was him.
Yeah, and so it's just Sammy Davis Jr. and Al at the sitting at the front of the stage, like almost in the audience, just doing My Funny Valentine. It's beautiful.
This is where Sammy really thrives. I mean, not only when he does these big numbers, which of course we know he's just crackerjack, but when he brings the room down like this and he's like, I'm going to put my tuchus right here on the edge of the stage and do a thing with Al Viola.
I love it.
This whole ending is very Sinatra adjacent. But My Funny Valentine is, again, here we go, the Great American Songbook, basically, where he's just doing this classic performance. It's beautiful. It's a complete, 180 from, all the heat in this show. And it's a really beautiful moment, and Al Viola is great, of course. And then he goes into an arrangement and finale, like a final bit where he does My Way, and it is wonderful. Like, it is one of the best arrangements of this, well, certainly of this song, but just the way he does it is just really out of sight. It's great.
It's a funk version of My Way with tambourine breakdowns and dancers. The dancers around him,
amazing.
Unlike the Peter Lawford thing, are like incredible. They're not having to grope anyone. It's just like, this is also the part of the show where we never see Peter Lawford again. He's done.
Yeah.
He doesn't come back on.
He passed out.
Goodbye.
Yeah, he passed out.
It's like, yeah. They're like, yeah, exactly. So it's kind of funny. I didn't realize that until, I was doing the notes for it. I was like, oh yeah, Peter Lawford's like,
we never see him again.
He's taking a nap.
Oh yeah, he's sleeping. He's got his ascot, his chins in his ascot.
Yeah.
And he's got like half a drink that's about to fall out of his hand on a couch.
And they're like, don't wake him. He's supposed to do My Way with Sammy, but don't wake him.
I just want to picture, the Dells are like stacking cups on his head.
Absolutely. Oh my God. But yeah, this is a killer
Yeah.
way to close out the show. I mean, it's just, again, it's just Sammy's show. This is like, you almost forget everything else that you've seen
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. No, he brings it back to him. Like, he's always the center of it, which is why I say he's such a great host for this show. And anytime he shows up anywhere, it's great. But like, he really raises the tone. He raises everything about Hollywood Palace, the material, the writing, the pace of it, the collaboration with the artists, the guests, and everything about you just are reminded that like this, we've been with him this whole time. You know what I
Right.
mean? And now he's going to take us home. He does the ending, the big finale, and you see him come off the stage.
I want to ask you about this.
Yeah. And we break the fourth wall. There's a camera backstage. He comes backstage. It looks like he takes a sip of like a rum and coke or something, something, it looks like something brown. I can't tell what it
Well,
is.
I was
Oh,
wondering,
mhm.
was this Ocean Spray placement? Because I was like, he's
Ocean
coming off stage.
spray smith,
Yeah,
spray.
exact spray Schmidt. He takes a sip, and then he also, there's this guy holding the glass for him, and he has a towel on his shoulder, and he leans into the towel on the guy's shoulder and wipes his face, goes back out. But I was like, is this something they do every show? Like, oh, you got to drink a little of the Ocean Spray and then go back out. But
I want to say it's a cocktail. I don't think it's, I want to say it's a rum and coke.
it's a cool move. It's a cool move because it is the fourth wall's broken, and it's really short and kind of unnecessary.
Yep.
But it's really, really cool that they do it because
Yeah.
for some reason they're like, we got to just show him that he is a performer and he's human and he needs to be hydrated, and he's gonna go back out.
You're so right. He's a human being who has thirst. Like he's a person.
Yes.
He breathes oxygen. and and he's really like, yeah, it's such a small weird moment, but it's also, it's so strange because the whole episode is sort of bracketed by these like, outside of the stage shots. The first shot being that,
Mhm.
borrowed shot from the Scottish castle that, that they were shooting
Right.
at or whatever. And then we finished it out and we're outside of which is it's a claustrophobic environment in a way that the stage, you're right there with the performer. So to see him off stage is really great. It's just for that second is just wonderful. And then he's got more for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's really cool is even the way he comes back on stage, it's this really large scale kind of frame on stage, just white light bulbs,
Yeah.
just around a frame. And it's cool. He has to step over it to go back out to the audience, which I think is really cool. It's not like, oh, it's a curtain and he just walks in front of it and does it. It's like, no, the Hollywood Palace is such a big event that our entertainers need to step over this special effect that you're seeing and come to you. And I thought it was just like, oh, it's the perfect way to end it.
Yeah.
It's like it's just a cool stage direction.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. You really feel like, like, I mean, it just ends on this note that's like, Jesus, I mean, really. And then you hear, and it goes into the credits, and the crowd, whether it's sweetened or the actual audience or whatever, but I mean, it really ends on this high note. And then you hear then you hear the voiceover guy like, tune in next week when we have, and it's like, completely different show. It's like,
Yes.
Roy Rogers and Dale Evans are hosting with guests Roy Clark and Minnie Pearl and all these like, hat
It blew my
spinners,
mind.
and it's just, you're like, we're never going to see this again. Like that's
Yeah.
very unique to this one show, this episode. And if you missed it, you missed it. And maybe you'll see it 70,000 years from now on YouTube when somebody rips,
Yeah.
dupes up the kinescope. But yeah.
Again, like you said, bless them, whoever put all
Oh, yeah.
these up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love that we were able to go through this beat by beat, and I will put again links to this, and you will be able to devour the show. Again, it moves fast. Even the parts that suck, like we were talking about, are fascinating.
Yeah.
And, we're seeing, like, you don't want to skip over Peter Lawford because you just can't believe just the bravado and ego of someone to be like, yeah, this is great. Oh, okay, cool. What do? I sit in a chair and you'll do all the work. Awesome. And it's just like, you are a lucky bastard.
Yeah.
You're so lucky.
Don't skip over Peter Lawford because you won't get any of my jokes about him. And that is a really important part of this episode of this podcast. But also it's a whole experience. It's a real experience of a show business in capital letters. And it's all of its highs and lows and everything in between, and advertising and big television and big network television with a budget and swinging for the bleachers. Everything about it is it's just wonderful. And there are so many episodes of varying degrees of, I know a lot of people out there have seen clips from the Hollywood Palace. People have seen clips of like the merry-go-round on the Hollywood Palace.
That's what I'd seen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it was from. With Don Knotts.
Exactly. I made a documentary that will never be seen, but it starts with Herb Alpert and Boyce and Hart on the Hollywood Palace. That's how it's the cold open of the documentary. There a lot of these performances had been seen, but to watch an entire episode with the commercials, and this YouTube channel that I had sent to you has so many episodes from the beginning to the end of the era, the tenure that Hollywood Palace was on television. Like I said, varying degrees of quality, but always fascinating. And from a cultural, anthropological sense, point of view, there's so much to love, and it's really fun to watch with other people and just get into it and just like, again, let the entertainment wash over you.
Oh, it's obviously that we're soulmates when we're talking about this. Like, we gravitate to the same things that upset us and the same things that excite us, and that we can be like, those light bulbs over there are amazing.
I know.
It's just been killer. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I, at the end of every episode, ask the same question, but I tailor it depending on what we're talking about. So on a scale from 1 to 200, how many much needed session musician cigarette breaks do you give this episode of the Hollywood Palace? 1 cigarette break for these needy session musicians to 200 cigarette breaks.
I think that if I'm thinking about the session musicians, the guys in the band, the orchestra, I feel like they deserve about 50 cigarette breaks. They need to take 100s. They deserve about 50 throughout, beginning and at the end of every single performance, and then during the commercials. And they've really earned their keep. You know what I mean? And the orchestra does a lot of heavy lifting anyway in this show. I mean, they are really playing along with everybody and doing a whole bunch. So I think they deserve 50. I'm just going to go with that.
All right.
Okay.
Beautiful. That's what I have written down here as well. So we're in good hands. Thank you so much, Rachel. It was so good to meet you. It was really fun. And you know what? I feel like there's 33 1/3 revolutions per monkey. There's so many things out there that people still need to discover and lay into. So I really appreciate you bringing something to my attention.
It's my pleasure. And thank you so much for having me. It was really difficult for me to come up with the thing to do for this episode. And this ended up being such a fun decision because it really is so much of what I love and really what I aspire to on a million levels. And it was really fun to talk about with you. So thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. And, I'm just going to say now, thanks for joining our Thanksgiving episode. Thank you for joining our New Year's episode. Thank you for joining our 4th of July episode, because this is going to be a holiday staple, I feel like, this episode from now on. So I'm just going to do those in advance and just slot them in as where we need, just like we would in reruns. So
brought to you by Ocean Spray, as always. Thank you very much. Thank you to them. Got to shout out Ocean Spray. Thank you very much. No, thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to Revolutions Per Movie. We release new episodes every Thursday on your favorite podcast app and additional bonus episodes every Sunday on our Patreon. The show is a completely independent affair, so the best way to support the show is through our Patreon at patreon.com/revolutionspermovie, where you can get weekly bonus episodes and shows, exclusive limited edition flexi discs and records and CDs featuring guests that have appeared on the show, and other exclusive goods sent to you just for joining. You can follow us on social media at Revolutions Per Movie and also find out more information about our various guests in the episode show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Bye!